friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about... what is that? Hey!
Hey friends, it's Ben, and this is the part of the year where I commandeer Tori's channel to talk about my favorite books of 2025. I read about 35 books, and I've managed to boil it down to my top 5 reads, and it's kind of a motley assortment, but I think there are some real good gems here, and I wanted to share them with you. Without further ado, and in no particular order, first up would be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This was a reread for me. I read this probably like many of you did back in high school, so I'm not going to say too much about the book itself. But upon rereading it, I was trying to figure out why it was that this book works as well as it does. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the perspective that you're getting the story from. If it had just been from any regular adult perspective, it would have been a good historical fiction. But because you're getting it through the eyes of a child, there's a lot more opportunity, I think, for dramatic irony. And one of the best examples of this, I think, is towards the end of the book, where the main character, a little girl named Scout, is in this situation that is just stinking hilarious, especially for anyone who's grown up in a small town and appreciates that kind of humor. All of the adults in this situation think it's funny too. Scout can't quite understand it, but you as a reader, like, you can see a little more than maybe she can see in that particular moment. And then Harper Lee, because she is just a masterclass at what she can do, will take you by the hand while you are still chuckling and lead you out of that moment into one of the most terrifying moments of the whole story. All the characters are solid. It does tackle some pretty heavy themes, but it does so fairly and with a heavy helping of humanity. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on To Kill a Mockingbird. If you somehow manage to get through high school without reading this book, I would highly recommend it. This one is worth your while. Moving on from that into something completely different, we're going to talk about a comic book that I read this year called Superman Red Sun. I think it's the only comic book that I read this year. Superman Red Sun asks and answers the question, what if Superman didn't crash land and grow up in Kansas? What if the timing was just a little bit off and instead he landed in Soviet Russia? How does that change the DC universe? It's a cyclical story. I'm a sucker for cyclical narratives. I wanted to take a moment and geek out a little bit about this comic book. See if I can put the picture up here. But there's a couple of pages in here, and don't worry about spoilers. This is just regular Superman being Superman stuff and doesn't have to do with the larger plot very much. And it happens right away in the beginning. So on top of the Daily Planet news building is this gigantic statue of a planet, and it has come loose and is falling because they just can't keep this thing tied down. But on its way down, there are people who can see it coming, but they're not going to be able to get out of the way in time. Towards the bottom of the page, you'll see that the panels are becoming smaller and they're closer together. And this gives the reader the impression that time is speeding up. And then at the same time, there is in the bottom right-hand corner this distinct lack of panels, this white panellessness, which gives the impression that time is slowing down. Now, if you've ever been in an accident yourself, this is exactly what happens. Somehow, time speeds up and slows down at the same time. So I think it's really cool that they could use the medium itself of the comic book to capture this human experience this way. So in the bottom right-hand corner, in this timeless pause, you have this simple picture of a mother giving the ultimate sacrifice for her child. It's touching, but it's ultimately meaningless because the planet is going to crush them both. And to sort of symbolize this hopelessness is this picture of the balloon that's been let go. Like in the same way a child loses track of a balloon on a summer day. It's full of helium, it's gone. There's no parent, there's no adult they could appeal to, no one in authority who could possibly get that balloon back. And because this is a Superman story, it's a theme that harkens back to a larger theme, not just with regards to these people, but humanity itself. When things like this are happening all over the place, who could they possibly turn to? Who could possibly help them in a situation like this? So you turn the page. Isn't this beautiful? Like, he's even holding this stupid balloon. Symbol, setup, payoff. Like, it's really cool when it's done, and it's really, really neat when it's done well. And, yeah. So, is this a perfect book, a perfect story? I wouldn't say so, but it is a very well-crafted story. And for anyone who's new getting into comic books, it's definitely not a bad place to start. I'm going to take a moment to talk about a book that we actually no longer own, but it was in my top 5 reads, and it was also one of Tori's most disappointing reads of 2025. Ironically enough, for the exact same reason. And that would be William Goldman's The Princess Bride. Now, there's a delightful secret in the story of The Princess Bride. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, maybe you've only seen the movie or you certainly never read the book, skip ahead, but read the book cold. Don't do any research, just read the story as it is. And then once you're done, then do some research. Or find someone who has read the book too to let you in on the secret, because it is just wonderful. So I'm going to talk about it because I can't talk about this book without spoiling it. So that was your warning. We're spoilers ahead here. William Goldman takes some time at the beginning of The Princess Bride to talk about how he first heard this story. It was told to him by his father when he was young, and he enjoyed it so much that he got the book when he was older and had his own kids and was going to give it to his son, only to find out upon purchasing and reading the book that the Princess Bride down in that book was not the Princess Bride he was told as a child. The Princess Bride, the original, was a book that was political, it was satirical, it was really dry, especially for kids. And William Goldman's father was editing the book as he was relating it to his son. So, you know, he fell in love with a book that technically never was. And so William Goldman's version of The Princess Bride was the version that he remembered growing up with as a child. And he'll take moments as the book progresses to point out different things here and there and essentially say, this is different than the original. The original was like this, but I ended up doing it like this because that's how I remember it being told. There's a point even where he was going to put in a particular scene, but for whatever reason his editors or his publisher wouldn't let him do it. And so William Goldman says in the book, you know, if you wanted to get this scene, you should write a letter into the publisher. Here's their address. Go for it. Here's the thing, though. None of it's real. None of it actually happened. There is no original story of The Princess Bride. William Goldman made the whole thing up. So the book is just one big, gigantic, practical joke. I don't know if it's still like this, but for a while, you could actually mail in a letter to that address, and you would get a letter back within the world of the story, essentially saying, you know, we'd love to release this scene, but we can't because of so and such reason. All of it's fake. It's all fake. I love it when stories find excuses to make themselves part of the real world. Like, if you're going to read a fantasy story, but the story opens up with the author explaining that they were spelunking and found this manuscript deep in this cave, and it wasn't written in any language known to man, but they did their best to translate it, and this is that story. Like that kind of thing is really cool. I enjoy it. And William Goldman does a fantastic job and doesn't drop the joke the whole way through the book. Like, just the sheer commitment to the joke is remarkable. And I was trying to think, like, I don't know if there's anything else like that out there. It's such a unique way to tell the story. It's so bizarre at the same time. So, yeah, that's why I loved it so much, and also why Tori didn't. But if that is at all interesting to you and you still are listening and you haven't read it, like, please read it. It is really good. The story and the characters are also really good. It's almost a modern classic, in a sense. Moving on from there, we're going to talk about a book that probably most of you have heard Tori talk about already, but it is By Blood, By Salt by J.L. Odom. This book follows a character. His name is Zetla. He's a soldier, and he's been living on the outskirts of society, culturally speaking. And by that, really what I mean is at any point his superiors could just decide to kill him because he's too much work to keep alive. So yeah, that's the kind of anxiety he's been having to deal with his whole life. You find ways to make yourself useful, I guess. Zetla is part of this patrol that has been sent down to this mysterious desert southern land to capture a demon and bring it back for their king. That was enough of a pitch for me. I was sold. I'll read that book. 3 things I think that this book does really well. The prose is just stellar. Stellar prose. Also the characterization. I love when characters are distinct enough. You're getting multiple different points of view as the story progresses, but one character will experience a situation and come away with a certain point of view or conclusion about things, and then it will switch to another character's point of view in the next chapter, and they have drawn completely different conclusions about what has happened or is happening, because they just care about different things. They have different prejudices. It makes the story very unique and draws you into the characters really well. Lastly, I will say that towards the end of this book, like, it would have been a really good, compelling, interesting standalone story if it were somehow going to end at the end. But there's this subtle drop that happens where you realize, even though none of the main characters do, whoa, this book is part of a larger narrative that will be epic in its scope. And I truly look forward to reading the sequel and finding out what happens next. My final pick for the top 5 books, and what I will say is probably my favorite book of 2025. For unfair reasons. If I had read this book at any other point other than Christmas time, it might not have had the same impact on me. The book is Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. And that was my Christmas read this year. In the world of the Discworld, concepts like death or Santa Claus exist in real life as actual characters, except instead of Santa Claus, the character's name is the Hogfather. And in the story of the Hogfather as a character, for reasons I can't get into because of spoilers, is unable to perform his function as Hogfather, this Hogswatch Eve. And so because the function of the Hogfather is incredibly essential, like existentially essential to the world of the Discworld, Death himself decides to don the hat and the outfit and gets in the sleigh, and away he goes. And it really is as delightful as it sounds. Terry Pratchett has this remarkable, intelligent sense of humor that works its way through the prose of the story. So there are a lot of really funny moments in this story. At the same time, there are moments that the story can be profoundly sad, almost, as Terry Pratchett is analyzing different Christmas lore elements through the lens of the Discworld. Something that I thought was kind of surprising to find in a book that was so Christmas adjacent was that there were moments that actually approached not horror, but there were some scary moments for it being a Terry Pratchett Discworld book. It didn't bother me at all, though. Like, I personally don't mind a little bit of ghost story mixed in with my Christmas time. Those are my thoughts on the Hogfather. If any of that sounds interesting, I would recommend this book. I would recommend the entire Death Cycle series. And if you were going to read it, I would recommend reading it in such a way so that you arrive at this book around Christmas time, because it made the book just fantastic that this story and Christmas time both coincided together. It was really cool. Otherwise, that wraps it up for me. I didn't actually have an outro planned, so this is the end of the video. I hope you are reading 5-star reads, and I hope to see you in the next one.